What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video on Parker Miller Herbie Lubbock, and today we're doing what if Britain, aka the United Kingdom, made an empire. And this is a suggestion from one of you guys, so thank you for the suggestion. And so I will try to do other suggestions, like Ukraine or something. So I hope you guys all had a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year's from me. And let's get right into it. So first off, the UK attacks Ireland as their closest neighbor, and they've pulled a grudge from the 1921 independence. Or was it 1922? I don't remember. So at first, they launch an offensive up in the north, capturing the area. Then they launch a continued invasion through the south. They get close to Dublin and ultimately capture after a long battle. They continue to push around on Ireland and ultimately push to here, which then Ireland surrenders, and it is a total annexation of the country. And also thank you for whoever told me to turn off anti-aliasing. That is going to help my videos a lot, so thank you very much. And after this, Britain looks around at itself, and also all factions are disabled, like all my videos, and no nuclear weapons too. And so after this, Britain builds up and it attacks France. As France is quite strong, actually, it's gonna be hard. And also, just so you know, Britain is buffed. Just to make that clear. So with this, Britain launches an invasion on Normandy, capturing most of it. Then they launch another one at Dunkirk. And then they try to land in Britain, and they also do a small invasion of Brittany. With this, they move around, Old Normandy and Brittany connect to form one large front. But sadly for Britain, but good for France, the Dunkirk invasion is kicked off. But Britain continues its advance, going down southward while continuing a push in the north, and then they make an advance towards Paris, ultimately capturing the city. France does launch a counteroffensive and aim to cut off this, which is successful, but is ultimately pushed back by Britain as the French military starts to lose hope in the government. Things go worse and worse for France as they recapture Dunkirk and sweep this area out, losing most of their Atlantic coast. British troops go down here, ultimately leading to, after a continued advance, France surrenders. The peace treaty, France is forced to sign over these areas. Oh, what the crud. Sorry everybody. They force to surrender these areas to France, as then a puppet known as Ile-de-France is set up known as Paris, is set up right here. Paris becomes a entire puppet, is a puppet of Britain. It's quite weak though, as being a puppet. And France, they're forced to have a lot of military restrictions to their country, and they're just much overall weaker. So they continue holding on to a military occupation for here, but ultimately retreat, leaving France in a much weaker position than it was. With becoming a new power in Europe, the Britain looks at Belgium and ultimately launches an invasion of the Benelux. I didn't mean Belgium, I meant the Benelux. I'm super sorry about that. I am just a little bit tired right now. Sorry about that. So, with this, an invasion is launched through here, which ultimately leads to the capture of Brussels, almost complete collapse of Belgium in just the first week. Luxembourg tries to hang on, but is ultimately pushed back. Netherlands puts up a fierce resistance, but ultimately defends pretty well. But ultimately, with a breakthrough in the right here, is forced to surrender. The three countries are just are united into one single country puppet of Britain, known as Benelux. Benelux is just put on military restrictions and is weak. But following this, Britain has cemented himself as the most powerful nation in Western Europe, and it no longer has really much territorial ambitions in Europe, besides Iceland, which is not going to last long. So quickly, they land an invasion in the west. As only 300,000 people live in Iceland, they do try to form an army of 25,000 guys.
What? I want to tell you one question. We're going to go to bowling for a little date, so you can't come.
I'm super sorry about that, guys. It was Emmy. That was Emmy, my little sister. You might remember her from one of my older videos. So the 50,000 strong army defends, but ultimately falls apart. Iceland is just annexed into Britain, as it's an amazing strategic position for the country. So they ultimately relook to at old colonies, and they choose Africa. They ultimately decide on the Gold Coast, as it is pretty weak and is in a lot of civil war, so they attack all of these countries. They do leave Liberia alone, as not to really anger the United States. As well, no factions exist. United States is still the most powerful country in the world. But while Britain is only fourth against United States, China, and Russia. So with this, Britain brings its navy down here and launches two big naval landings. One right here and one right here. So with this, Sierra Leone is wiped out pretty quickly. Wait, is this Sierra Leone? I don't remember. This country right here is wiped out. they continue to push into these Western countries. And ultimately reach the border of this nation. I can't. If I try to pronounce his name, I would butcher it so badly that it would probably just ruin this video. So I'm not gonna say it. With that, stalemate is formed right here, as this country uses almost its entire population as to put into the army. Benin and Togo fall decently quickly as they're quite weak and narrow. Ghana can hold out for a little bit, but it's weak though. Cut off from right here, the two allies. Stalemate is broken, and yeah, that's wiped out. This nation sees no point in continuing and surrenders. With that, it's all annexed just back into the British Empire. The re-emerging British Empire. So yeah, that's just that. And Britain tries to expand its influence in Africa, but really doesn't do much else with the western part of the continent, as it looks down south to try to get the riches of like gold, diamonds, and stuff down here. But with a lot of these countries being decently strong, with South Africa being the strongest, they decided to go for Namibia instead. Namibia is decently strong, but it's not too amazingly strong. So they decided to launch 3 invasions. One here, and a center one here. These immediately push around as they are trying to capture the entire coast, and which is successful, which is cutting off a large cut off a large population and a lot of resources for Namibia to continue the fight. As Britain continues its advance, so we're at the country with a center attack by Namibia, which is surprising by the world. But they try to cut off the forces, but ultimately do lose a battle, which sees this offensive get pushed back. Following that, Namibia exhausts almost all of its resources with that offensive, as it was a failure in its goal. Namibia falls apart, really. With that, Britain decides if it should puppet or annex Namibia, which it decides to annex for more control over its resources. With that, Britain finished off its African territorial expansion, as it does no longer see any point in the continent. It does that because it has all the resources it wants, and the native populations of these countries are rebelling a lot, so it has to control them. So after additional 20 years, after settling itself, rebuilding after all the wars, Britain continues its global effort of re-establishing itself as a superpower. So it launches an attack into Sri Lanka. As Sri Lanka is so incredibly weakened, so incredibly weak, doesn't take long. They launch a major invasion of the south. As the nation is still, I believe, in a civil war. Might be wrong about that. You can tell me in the comments. It just falls really easily. is annexed as the new Asian part of the British Empire. Following this, Britain wants to take back the Suez Canal, but invading Egypt would be incredibly hard. It's a very strong power, and fighting all of the Arab League would also be really much pain for Britain. So it decides to accept that it has to pay money to use the canal. Britain then sees wanting to get back an old colony that had a lot of resources, Malaysia. They also launched an invasion of Brunei. It's pretty simple, as they want an invasion of the Western Islands. Brunei puts up a little bit of fight, but ultimately falls. The island falls. Malaysia, using its entire remaining army, holds out on their main island. But yeah, it's really pointless as Britain lands, launches an invasion in the south, continues its invasion in the south, and ultimately wipes out the country. Following that, it's completely annexed. With this, Britain is starting to see the end of its Greek colonial ambitions, as it does not want to overextend itself like its first attempt at an empire, or like its first empire that finished collapsing in 1997. So they don't really want to do that again, overexpand themselves, but they do want to take back one last. They also do want to take back a few colonies in the Americas to maybe relaunch an invasion of the United States, and maybe continue to do a future invasion. So they do this by launching an invasion of Ghana, this, and also just for old time's sake, there we go, the War of France for Guinea. As they also do just want to have more access to the Atlantic Ocean. So, France broke their Treaty of London, which was called that treaty. Is broken. So yeah, they've been breaking a lot to rebuild. And naval invasion of Ghana is successful, as not much effort is put into these countries, as they're super weak. And France has only 2,000 troops in Guinea, French Guinea, it's Guyana. But on the mainland, France puts up a stubborn fight. Launch an invasion of the Benelux, as they call themselves the Liberator, and as they have a party of the Belgians that now wants to claim it. They are an ally, so this country will be called Blue, and also this one. Also launched an invasion, recapturing Paris, which is good for their morale. But Britain comes back with this whoopty-doopty around their flanks. Relaunches its invasion, capturing its Atlantic coast. Stunning the French government as they're cut off from sea axis. Paris is recaptured, but France does ultimately capture the entirety of Benelux right back into its hands, as they can relaunch invasion of the Paris puppet. They reestablish a connection with the sea, and stalemate is set. But Britain does, using its more resources thanks to its conquest, cuts off a portion of the French army here, captures Corsica, begins an invasion up north, recaptures Paris, relaunches its invasion, begins recapturing Benelux, which it does. France holds out in Alsace-Lorraine as its government, and everybody here retreats to Germany. As the war is then over. After this, um, Britain would annex this as no, actually wait. Britain annexes this as part of its territorial, as it's part of its directly into its empire. New puppets are set up with one right here. This is called the Nice Republic. Paris is given a bit of land. And then they break France apart into two states. Then they continue to break France apart. This is called this is what remains of France as this is called it's basically just a area for France for to just limit France in terms of power, and it's just called Alsace-Lorraine. It's just known as Greater Alsace-Lorraine. So let me just color in these borders again. Hold on, this might take a second longer than I was anticipating. Super sorry about that. They do that. And then with France broken apart, so it's no longer a really strong nation with Alsace-Lorraine. Paris, Savoy also owns Corsica also a puppet, and then France being limited to just a tiny bit of land with a tiny sea access. This is just entirely annexed by Britain as part of its recolonial effort. Thank you so much for watching. This is my take on what if Britain made an empire in 2022, and I'll change and this video might be called what if Britain made an empire in 2023, but since I'm uploading this in late 2022, it'll just be called what if Britain made an empire in 2023. So thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for all my new subscribers and everybody who's liking, commenting. It helps so much, and it is making the end of my year. It's all I've ever wanted. I've always wanted it to be like a decently big YouTube channel, and this is just making my dream. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good New Year's Eve. Goodbye.